All right, we are broadcasting live. I wanted to, yesterday we did a marketing webinar about pivoting. And so I was going to try to be like Josh Collins, who moderates those. He has a great voice. We are now broadcasting live, but my voice doesn't do that. So you're just getting broadcasting live from me. Welcome everyone. Glad we are back this week and glad that everyone has joined us again. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sherry Daly. I am the Vice President of Connect Travel, and we started doing these webinars the third week of March with no intention that they would still be going on now, or COVID would still be happening now, and we would still need the webinars to stay in touch with each other. But for all of you that continue to log in week after week to get more information and stay in touch with everyone that is on the calls, we really appreciate it. I'm super excited this week because we have talked to tour operators, we've talked to wholesalers, we've talked to receptive tour operators. We haven't talked to travel agents and consortiums, and that kind of closes the loop, right? We're kind of closing the loop on everyone that works within the industry and what they're seeing and feeling and hearing within their industry. So we have three amazing panelists this week, and I'm super excited that they're here with us. Before I introduce them, I should thank Betsy Cooper from Tour Operator Land. She's been our sponsor, and Tour Operator Land's been our sponsor throughout all of our, I think we're 18, maybe 19 webinars so far. We couldn't do it without her, and we really appreciate her sticking in with us. So if you haven't, connected with Betsy to learn more about Tour Operator Land, you should. And she'll put her information in the chat box for you. And then I also wanted to do a quick call out to Eva D'Amato and Eric Garnica with Discover the Palm Beaches. This industry is pretty tight, and we say it takes a village all the time, and it's going to take all of us to get through this together. They were instrumental in helping me find panelists for this week. So thank you, Eva, and thank you, Eric. And I really appreciate you. I've traveled the world with both of them. And if you are an operator on the call, you should contact them and find out a little bit more about Discover the Palm Beaches. So without further ado, we're going to get going because I know that we're going to have lots of questions because I have tons of questions just to find out how this segment of the industry is faring right now. So I'm going to let everyone kind of introduce their own company and talk about what markets you focused on, kind of what high level, what you're looking at. But we're going to start with Beth Hill from Mangata Travel. And Beth is in Colorado right now, so in Durango. So we're super excited. So Beth, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Yeah, we have a family cabin in Durango, and we dole out the weeks every summer. And typically, there's always extra weeks and never enough time. And I'm grabbing everybody's week that's available. So nothing better than free travel. So I'm great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and for being with us today. Can't wait to hear a little bit more about what you focus on. And you focus primarily on adventure travel.
I do. It's kind of a hybrid. It's adventure travel, international, custom itinerary design with a twist of luxury. It's 8 days of trekking in Nepal and staying in tea houses. And then the last 3 days we stay at Dwarika's in the luxury suite. So, it's not a cookie cutter experience by any means, but it's one that has definitely been impacted by the current situation.
Absolutely. Well, it has, and I look forward to talking a little bit more about if you're going to pivot to maybe some more U.S. based adventure or how you may be feeling about that right now. But Anneke Marchese, I know I'm going to say it wrong.
Yeah. It's a mouthful. It's Anneke Marchese. Yeah. It's
wonderful. Crazy. So Anneke, tell us about you and your company.
Yeah, so I'm physically located in Central Oregon in Bend, which is a destination in itself. Lots of people vacation here yearly. And a lot like Beth, we focus primarily on, FIT travel, very custom travel, but also really my specialty is the Hawaiian Islands. I've been to all 6 islands numerous times. And obviously with the current state of affairs, that's changed quite a bit. And then second, international travel as far as Europe is concerned. And so we've done a lot of changing over the past 6 months. Yeah.
Who knew? Who knew it was going to be 6 months? Every time I hear that, I shake my head.
Right.
And I feel like Hollywood Squares. Nikki McBride, you were down below my square on the webinar. So Nikki is with Avoya Travel. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's great to meet new friends. I'm the director of partner development with Avoya Travel, so I work with a lot of our different vendors. And so again, new friends here because we primarily work with cruise lines, done a lot with the all-inclusive resort market, escorted tours. And so our business has been, hit hard just like everyone else's. What we bring to the table is a network of over 1,300 independent agencies that are affiliating their businesses with Avoya, and primarily for marketing efforts. So we do a lot on the consumer side in bringing travelers to these independent agencies and connecting them based off of what they specialize in.
I love it. And that I think is what makes this conversation so unique and so special is you are dealing with the consumer. You are hearing what the end consumer has to say. And some of the other conversations we've had with tour operators, they're dealing with agents like you. So it's interesting. I'm really curious to know what you're hearing from your clients. And Mickey, in your case, your clients or your other agencies that are working with you. Beth, life has changed in the last 6 weeks, but what are you hearing from your clients that have been so loyal to you over the years?
It's interesting. I think people are really following my lead, and they're saying we'll travel when you're ready to travel. And it's interesting because we all have different perspectives on that. I don't feel ready to send my clients out into the wild yet, just because there's so many potential hiccups that can occur. I mean, my focus and my objective is to provide peace of mind to my clients and provide them as seamless as an experience as possible. And there's always going to be issues with travel. There's always going to be something that goes wrong. But when I have the cards stacked against us in many respects, you have to weigh how important the experience is to you. I've got a handful of clients that get that and are kind of chomping on the bit, but most of my trips are, $10,000 to $20,000 for a family, and they're hard workers, so time away is valuable. So for them to roll the dice on such a big expense with very limited time to travel, let alone the risk of having COVID, that's a whole different story. So in a nutshell, they're waiting to see what I'm doing. My son lives in Costa Rica. I haven't been able to see him. I mean, we all have stories, and they're watching me. They love seeing me here in Colorado, and there's, I stay out of the political realm. That's irrelevant with all of this. But it is a fine line between me being somewhere that's not home, versus always wanting to do what's right and be an example for clients.
Sure.
So people want to go, but they're they're looking at the risks as well.
And Anneke, what are you hearing as well? I know you're used to doing tons of trips a year. You've done 2 this year. So we talked earlier about staying home has just been hard, and I think everybody on this call understands that. But what are your clients telling you?
Yeah, it's shifted a lot. So March was a completely different climate and temperature, I think, in terms of even hope of what the future might bring versus now. And so, if you're looking at summer travel in March, really in a lot of ways, if we're looking at alternative pivoting, which a lot of people are looking at domestic travel, national parks, some of those things are already gone for the season. Like Yellowstone, for example, became hot, but there's not much we can do when nothing's open. And then you're battling the risk as well. And it does feel like things are changing daily. Here on the West Coast, the temperature and the climate that I'm in is very different than, say, the South, where a lot of my clients are. So really, it's listening to how they feel. A lot of this has been conversational and a lot of gratitude, because we get to know our suppliers, and it is a balance of, there's the money-making aspect for suppliers, but we also don't want to compromise safety. So it's really a balance of who's got this fine balance best, right? Like who's willing to take care of our clients, but also keep mindfulness of their safety. And that's really what I think my clients are wanting to hear and telling me that they're looking for is, where do we go with this? Where do we go now? And so like Beth, they're looking to me for advice. And like Beth, I'm kind of saying, let's hold off for now, because really nothing is going to give you the same experience that you would have had you taken this trip in November. Really, that's what it comes down to.
Right. And Mickey, with your, and it's going to be kind of a two-parter for you, what you're hearing from the consumers, but also what you're hearing from your other agencies.
Yeah, so the independent agencies in our network, we all got together at the end of June for our first ever virtual land forum. So it was a good opportunity for us to kind of reconnect and, bring back some positivity and just kind of rejuvenate the morale a little bit because the last few months have been hard and spent, a lot of time dealing with cancellations and how do we rebook or deal with the refunds. And so for about March through June, that's where a lot of our agents were at. And then things were kind of progressing nicely. Things were starting to open back up. And then that took a turn about 2 weeks later or so. So we were actually seeing some positive trends for domestic travel, which was encouraging. Seeing some positive trends for, Cancun, the Caribbean, things that were going to be opening. And then again, things have changed. So I think we've all, heard the buzzwords, pivoting, things are very fluid. For us, about 70% of our overall volume came from cruising. So for us, it's a major pivot because we don't know what that's going to look like, especially anytime soon. So we've been really putting a greater emphasis on close to home travel. A lot of our marketing effort has been on that. And from a consumer standpoint, people are still interested. They're just not maybe booking, right? So they're looking at, what can I do on this specific product, but maybe in 2021. And then you have, in some cases, people that are totally eager to still go this fall and just get out of the house because they've been cooped up this whole time. But it's definitely been a shift in terms of there's an interest, but we want to wait until we see how things settle.
So pulling off of that just a little bit, and I think Beth and Anneke and Mickey, you all touched on it. Everyone's cautious. They want to feel safe. They're waiting a little bit until they see what happens. Are there any factors? There's tons of research out there that talks about wearing masks or mandating masks or getting certification for a destination or an attraction or a restaurant, as far as the safety standard. Has anyone asked you about that? Are you looking for that when you're trying to pivot and look at new destinations? Is there anything that your clients have talked to you about that would make them feel more comfortable traveling?
I've been watching a lot of my travel friends. Obviously, this industry is huge, so we get to watch each other travel, which is one of the best exciting things. But a lot of my colleagues have been traveling to Mexico, and it's been exciting to see the various safety standards. For example, the sanitizing of the shoes when you get out of the airport before you go to a resort. I think sharing those things has built confidence. But most of my clients are falling into one of two parties. We're excited and we want to go, but we're scared and it's a lot of money to invest and lose potentially, or we want this experience that we could have had. We don't want to wear masks. We don't want it to be compromised in any way because we've invested $30,000. We'd rather sit this out until we can have the experience we've envisioned.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. Mickey, have same thing with you, or a little different in the marketing that you're providing?
Yeah, so I think the cancellation policies that have been adjusted throughout all this have been helpful. It's giving some of the clients some reassurance that, okay, if I do book right now, I could still cancel up until the day before or whatever it may be. And so we are seeing some of those bookings that are coming in just as a result of, I feel confident that maybe come, October, I might be able to go to Cancun and have somewhat of an experience that I would be used to. But obviously the whole experience has shifted. And from the agency side of things, that's where a lot of the education has been, to be able to communicate that back to these clients, because, the clients are going to come in as leads from our marketing efforts, and they may be interested in a brand that they might not have known about because it was closer to home. But then they still need to know what exactly will that look like on board, or what will that look like when I'm checking out these destinations.
So when you're gathering that information, you have a lot of DMOs on this call, you have a lot of attractions on this call, hotels on this call that certainly want to share what their city or state or business is doing. How are you gathering that information? Are you looking to the industry to provide it for you and to give you those consistent updates? And that's for anyone that wants to jump in. Or are you doing the research on your own? I mean, we've got operators that are doing research on their own, and it's that, hey, you have people in the industry that can provide this for you. So go ahead, Mickey.
Sorry, for us, it's come down to the communication that we have with our preferred partnerships.
Got it.
So, these vendors that can give us that information that they're wanting to pass along to our entire network. We're also affiliated with American Express. So, our independent agencies can kind of capitalize on some of the communication that is being done through the American Express rep network. Again, for the first couple months, that's pretty much all my team was focused on, was trying to stay updated on every single policy that was going on, and not a whole lot else, because everything was changing. At first, things were coming out and this is what things look like for right now, or maybe not even posted on a website to where content can change. So we were trying to, make the most of what information was being passed along to us, and then again, making that available to our independent agencies.
Right. I'm the same. I found several what I consider trusted resources that I've come to know and I look at daily. And whether they're tour operators, I'm also affiliated with Travel Leaders. They've done a phenomenal job of updating us. And then a lot of, Facebook boards, there's a ton of information. And like the tour operators and the people on this call, clients come and it's like, where on earth did you come up with this? Because they hear what they want to hear also. My business, half of it's in Oklahoma, or half of it's in Minnesota. So you're talking people who say, I won't go anywhere where I need a mask, or I'm only going somewhere where I need a mask, right? And they find the information that fits what they are looking for. Whereas I am trying to be as objective as possible and to find the real truth and to communicate that, and stay out of the political chaos of it all. It just can't go there.
100% agreed, Beth. 100% agreed on that one.
Not interested.
I am also a travel leader, so I feel like I'm getting great communication.
Yeah, they've been good.
Marriott's done a great job, obviously, of communicating. There's been several trusted suppliers that have done a great job. What I'm really paying attention to, obviously, is the destinations that I sell frequently. And then people that have decided to pivot, right? We've got things that are canceled right now, but not necessarily canceled in the hard way. We're still looking at traveling there. So keeping a pulse on what's happening there, what the changes are, what the updates are, which, like Nikki said, can be exhausting because sometimes it's hourly that these changes are coming down the pipe. So really the time to use a trusted travel professional, I think for suppliers and clients alike, like this is the time to band together and realize the power that we have being impartial, listening to solid sources. We really do have the upper hand on the knowledge to get people where they want to go with their vision, right? If we know someone's vision and we know what's going on, we can do our best to fit what works for them right now and what they're comfortable with. And I really think that that's the best way we can do right now going forward, at least for my agency.
I think that's huge, Anneke. Sorry, I just want to commend you guys for, and Beth for what you're dealing with talking to these clients. And I think the value that a travel professional brings now is even greater than ever before, because there's going to be, so much uncertainty for so long of what that experience looks like. And they're going to come for guidance, for expertise, for personal experiences. So it's fun to hear, Beth, of how much your clients just enjoy what you're doing out there. Like that I think that's going to be really where we see business move, even that much more so, is how needed the advisor is for any sort of vacation type, and not just the cruising or these escorted tours that are maybe a little bit more complex, but all different product types. So just want to thank you guys.
And yes, agreed. Thank you very much. And every conversation we've had, there's been a collective across the board, from the tour operator to the wholesaler to you guys, as travel professionals and what we do has never been more important. And it will continue to be globally. So that's really encouraging for everyone on the call and for what we do throughout the industry. I'm going to jump back for a minute because we talked about cruises and international trips and how clients still want to do something, travel closer to home. That's a comment we've heard a lot lately. Are you finding, are you researching your own tours? Is there information, that can be sent to you when people, I have two questions in my mind and I'm trying to say them at the same time, so I apologize for that. But the first one is they are trying to travel closer to home. That's the marketing message that's coming out. When they're traveling closer to home, do you see a shift in asking for an urban destination to maybe a more rural destination and something outside, maybe more outdoors, open area? Are you seeing that shift, or are people specifically asking for it?
100%. I don't see much draw at all to the cities unless it's a fly in and fly out. Absolutely. And I've shifted that way as well. Like Mickey just said, things continue to change. So it's a tough one. I, for example, just did 3 really comprehensive FITs through Utah and New Mexico and got great villas in New Mexico. And I was feeling the adrenaline was surging and I was excited to get out of bed again. And then boom, they come out and say, okay, 14-day quarantine. So the New Mexico piece is, so it's discouraging for people on the phone here. Yeah, we got to put this game face on and listen to our clients and, be optimistic, but gosh, that hits you hard when that happens. I am just like, I'm out of here for a couple of days and I'm just being pretty transparent.
Take a deep breath, recharge and start over. Yeah.
Like, and, we aren't Expedia where it's not this click and point, okay, here's your flight, here's your hotel, on your way. It's, okay, you love gelato. Well, you know what? In Taos, there's this really cool place. I mean, we know our people. And the companies that I work with, my tour operators know me and they know that I know my people. So, when you go that deep with these trips and then you have to undo them all, it gets pretty painful. And so it's, there has been a pivot, but I'm still pretty cautious as well. Montana and Wyoming have been good to me. Oregon, I've gotten kind of burned, Florida, I have a Keys honeymoon there right now, and they're fine, but I'm not optimistic about the Keys at the moment.
Yeah, no, it's that I see a lot of people wanting rural as well. In fact, I live in Central Oregon, about 4 hours from Portland, 7 from San Francisco and Seattle. So essentially, to people that don't know, in the middle of nowhere, right? But it's the land of the lakes and rivers. And so my normal self is obviously more luxury based, but I went ahead and even bought a camper and have been exploring the last 4 months. So I will tell you that people I'm talking to out there as I'm doing these things, they've never done this before either, and it's new travel to them. So it's frustrating because, like Beth said, Oregon right now is even talking about potentially closing our borders. Our city is running a campaign of anti-tourism. So it's really difficult for me, being based in the city, to, to find the fine line of how much I can even promote my own tourism within my own city, of me even doing anything, because your clients do want to see you doing things. But if borders get closed, it's, how do you go from there again? So I think we're all dealing with a different struggle every day. But
right,
yeah,
sure.
The rural vacation, the road trip vacation, the bespoke road trip, honestly. Finding, like Beth said, the amazing gelato place that's hidden under the radar, the inn that has a lavender farm. Those things are definitely more key right now than even before that I saw.
The unique, the unusual, absolutely. Yeah, it is going to be, I think personally the year of the road trip, and in 2021, the year of the road trip, to see what that brings and what we can explore in our own backyard even. And Mickey, you were going to say something before I jumped in.
Yeah, no, I mean, the last few Mondays, it seems like it's just, start the day and there's something else that closed or was paused, and that's kind of what you go into your week with. But agreed with everything that was said. Another kind of area that we're seeing that is also working is rail transportation. So able to get from Chicago to Glacier Park, it's a 6-day trip. People are still feeling comfortable on rail more so than actually flying and going to different destinations that may have some sort of quarantine element to it, more uncertainty. But yeah, the road trips are obviously where things are at, or the hotel, 45 minutes to an hour from your home that feels like some sort of getaway. So for us here in San Diego, Palm Springs is about an hour and a half away. And so that's kind of a vacation destination that people feel comfortable with going because they can just drive home and, after lunch.
And I think that, when you think of things that, I'm looking at the chat too, that I love everyone talking to each other. But those are, those road trips, the outdoor, the gateways and beyond, the short getaways, that's everything that we've heard in not only these conversations, but also surveys that have gone on, throughout travelers throughout the U.S. And Nikki, you mentioned terms and conditions. You mentioned, cancellations and being able to cancel a little bit later than normal. Everyone on this call has gone back to hotels or attractions, restaurants within their destinations, or if they work at those particular facilities. And they've been tasked with looking at T's and C's and how do they update them for this time period. What are you looking for? Obviously the best thing in the world is to be able to cancel last minute, but that's not fair to the provider as well. So what's the happy medium? What have you been looking for?
Flexibility. It's not necessarily that we need to have a refund forthcoming, but to say you have to use it within 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, it's very difficult when we don't know what's going to happen. Booking direct, obviously at higher rates, become more common because of the fact that there does tend to be a built-in, more flexible than using, let's say, a wholesaler behind the scenes. So the way we were booking things, talking about cancellation, primarily almost right now, everybody I talk to, the first thing we talk about as soon as we start talking about destinations is what is our backup plan in case you can't travel there. That's not something that we talked about necessarily forefront of every conversation previously, but it's the flexibility.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. What's been important to your clients?
It's interesting, Anneke said booking direct. I kind of did that a lot before. I had my favorite tour operator partners, but I did a lot of local DMCs. I've got my favorite South Africa, who I work directly with. I've got my Morocco people, so my Nepal. So I've got them, and I've always kind of done the direct thing, even though it is a little bit more work. But now I'm doing it even more with Caribbean and Mexico. I've been burned a couple of times, when you've got a group of people and the tour operator says, okay, you can only get a future credit. And then you've got some of their friends who booked direct at the same hotel and they got all their money back. That's a tough one to overcome. And as loyal as I want to be to my tour operators and my partners, I also want to protect my my reputation and my brand.
No, I'm hearing consistency, flexibility and consistency.
Yeah. So going direct is something that I've been doing a little bit more. And I know I will be doing more, especially with the big resorts.
So Nikki, when you're working with all of the independent agencies, is there an overarching rule of thumb? Is there a guideline, that you're looking for T's and C's?
They're looking for flexibility as well. So they want something that they can feel comfortable with and presenting to their clients. And then also what may save them down the road. So if it's refunds or if it's going to be a future travel credit, however that flexibility is going to make sense for both the client and the particular vendor, if it is the refund front, they want to feel comfortable that it's going to be within some sort of reasonable, timely manner. I think that's been a big struggle for
Oh, yes.
for the folks on the
Across the
call
board,
and
yeah.
for pretty much our entire network right now. And that's where a lot of their time has been spent instead of being able to focus on education or building those relationships, closing new sales. So it's policies that will help make a win-win for both the travel advisor and the client.
Got it.
Yeah, and just to jump in, one more thing I wanted to add too, because I know there's tour operators on this line as well. When I'm looking going forward at the tour operators I work with, I will choose the ones that were quickly, that didn't ask me to be on hold for 6 hours. I mean, as an independent, I value my time, and I think I'm worth a lot an hour, and I don't have 6 hours to sit on the phone. So, as people are looking forward into how they work with our industry, the travel agent industry, you can't ask a business owner to spend 6 to 8 hours on hold. And I get it was a bizarre situation, but going forward, I'm not going to do that. I can't.
It's something that you'll remember for future bookings and where you potentially take that business.
Yeah, I think you apply a 6-hour wait across any industry, even if you're just calling the electric company. Nobody likes to do that.
No.
Yeah, agreed. And I think from our side too, I know that there's been a shift from a lot of suppliers that are now saying they'll pay commissions up front versus on the back end, which I think is a bold, amazing move. But I think what would be even more important than being paid necessarily up front is just having some sort of guaranteed commission for a type of situation like this, right? Because I know we've all heard, but like Mickey said, we're spending our hours, days, right? Working on this. I mean, I know with myself, I have a supplier that still has not refunded a client that canceled in February. We're still working on the final dollars. That's not acceptable. For you, me, or anybody, and for my client, it makes all of us look bad. So I feel like the communication is key, and having a contact, like Beth said, it makes you re-examine your supplier partners, who really did reach out to you and say, hey, how are you doing through this? What can I do personally to help you? Versus you're in a queue for 10 days only to find out that you're going to get an automated email that says we can't help you. That's not acceptable. That doesn't make me want to do business with you. So as a supplier, please, bring your best foot forward too, because we remember that and we want to work with you and bring our clients to you. It really is that two-way street where, clients want to work with me because I don't put them on hold for 6 hours, and I would expect the same.
Absolutely. So you mentioned commission, which is an incentive for you, obviously. When you're looking at, and Eva from Palm Beach has great questions when it comes to advertising and incentives. And I know, Mickey, you're time sensitive because we're going to lose you at 15 till the hour because you have a meeting. So I want to get some marketing questions in here too. Are there specific incentives that are still beneficial for agents right now? I mean, you mentioned the commission up front, which is nice. Guaranteed commission would be better. Are there other incentives that are working in your market right now?
Right now, quite honestly, it's with our time not getting paid for right now. I'm sure as Beth feels and Mickey, your agents feel, it's all about the relationship and the respect too. I don't know that there's any specific advertising or incentive that would work for me or my agency or for my agents. I think what we want is we want people to respect our time, help us help our clients, and really let's brainstorm together how to get out of this by keeping us, each other in the loop. If I have a client that's looking for XYZ and you'll have XYZ, it's going to behoove us to stay in communication closely for the next year until we can close that sale with what we can do to make that particular client feel most comfortable. I don't know that an incentive is going to do it. It's more communication and support right now, honestly, for me.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I'm guilty of not even, there's some great incentives and promotion programs out there. I don't even record my bookings half the time at some of the resorts. I mean, I'm too busy for that. And I mean, it's important, but that doesn't drive me and motivate me. And I may be different. I mean, it just doesn't. So the number one thing that I would love for my tour operators is a shortened hold time, direct communications, a very fair to everybody cancellation policy, and a general respect of the time commitment that has gone into the relationship overall. I mean, the points and the $25 gift cards and the free nights after 10 bookings, I mean, those are great, and thank you, and I appreciate them, but they're not gonna direct my business to a specific company at this
Yeah, it
point.
comes down to the return on your investment and your time, right? And
Yeah, exactly.
And for us, we're very unique, so I'll kind of have to look at it from my lens, and thank you for bringing your expertise on the agency side. So for us, same thing. Our independent agencies have taken that extra step to register their bookings. It has always been kind of something that they weren't doing when it comes to the resort side of things. So we've tried to automate as much as possible, try to make it easier for the network to just take that extra 30 seconds. But at the end of the day, yes, that extra incentive isn't going to necessarily dictate where they take that business. But what really makes us different is the bonus commissions incentives don't drive the needle as much in our network, because ultimately it comes down to what that customer is interested in. So based off of what we're marketing, if we have somebody that's interested in a specific product, that independent agency is going to do whatever they can to do to close that sale because it's a hot lead, versus try to convert it to a different product where they might have an extra 5% bonus commission waiting for them, right? So it's trying to get as much guaranteed as possible, and guaranteed commission, just like that front, kind of two different things here. If they know that there's a better chance to make a booking happen with a specific vendor, regardless of what financially that means to them, it's still something that they're able to close.
So, and you mentioned that you were focusing more on closer to home. That's kind of where your marketing has gone right now. Any particular, everywhere, or any particular destinations, any particular areas of the country? It's, and the second part of that question is that for everyone on the phone, that, their number one question on these particular conversations are, how can we help? How can we get involved? What can we do? So, what kind of marketing are you doing? And is there information or opportunity for everyone on the phone to get involved or on the call to get involved?
Yeah, on our side, it's all mostly digital marketing. We don't do a lot of direct mail. It's all driving through our existing database. We have about 7 million travelers in our database that we can target depending on the product is mostly what we are segmenting the business off of. So when we're looking at closer to home travel, it's destinations like Florida, Las Vegas, California, Hawaii. Those are the big ones, but also by product. So it's looking at what tour operators have for some of these rural country or destinations, some of these national parks, things like that. It's looking at specific vendors like an Amtrak Vacations, who's still operating right now. The U.S. river cruises are hoping to get back on the waters next month. And so that's kind of been where the pivot has been from a marketing standpoint. And it's been really cool to see that the interest is still there from the traveler. We're seeing that, engagement on brands that have maybe less of a consumer awareness around them are actually of higher interest because of their destination or because of their product than some of these bigger vendors that are out in the magazines, out in the trade, out in these huge publications. Because right now, it's, again, comes down to comfortability, flexibility, safety versus brand recognition and when or brands may or may not travel.
You mentioned river cruises, and that was going to be one of my questions for you, since that's where your primary focus was. I'm glad that they are looking to come back on board. So most of your cruising that you did maybe open sea, are you looking to pivot into river cruising in the U.S.?
That's the hope. We'll see how well that works, but
my fingers will be crossed for you. I hope it works.
Thank you.
Anneke and Beth, when it comes to marketing, is there anything that suppliers on the call can work with you on, or what are some of the unique things that you're doing? You mentioned you're inspirational right now with your clients and maintaining contact and hoping that you can book the trip they were going to take this year into 2021. Is there anything specific marketing wise that you're doing?
I've been focusing a bit on the private aspect of things with touring, and I am seeing some tour operators come through pivoting from the group experience to the private experience without the private experience having to be insanely priced either. I think in the old days, private was going to be 3 to 4 times as much as the group, and I'm seeing some of my partners come through with some really competitively priced programs. So I've been focusing a little bit more on that and expanding my target audience of who I think would pay for and benefit and see the value in a private tour versus who I think will now. I mean, an example, my girls trip, I take 3 of my girlfriends every year, and last year we did Morocco, and we've done Bali, Nepal, and it's always something weird and cool. And this year was supposed to be Bhutan. Instead, they're coming out here to Colorado in 3 weeks. And I'm trying to make it really fun. But for example, whitewater rafting, nobody really wants to join a group, but I just called the company. I can get the same price for the 4 of us on a private whitewater rafting trip, maybe just a little bit more, that I could for joining the big group. I think it's like, instead of 120 a person, it's 140. I've also worked with another whitewater company out of Moab who's doing the same of a family of mine. So that's one angle that I'm looking at, and clients are digging the private thing and finding that it can surprisingly be affordable.
Well, and I think that that's a really interesting point that you make, especially for everyone that is tuning in right now, is maybe kind of look at that volume versus individual pricing that they might have had, and this is the time to take a step back. Everyone's been focused on terms and conditions, and not necessarily that, this is the volume pricing versus this. And that's a really good suggestion for them to take a step back and look at and see, as people pivot to more FIT travel or private travel, what they can do and pricing surrounds it. Anneke, what about you?
Yeah, my agents have been doing a really great job. I have one agent on the East Coast that's been doing this literally every day at different destination in the United States. So she's traveling pretty much from East to West Coast with recommendations of restaurants, museums, must eats, must sees. That's brought a lot of attention to the domestic travels. People are commenting like, wow, I never realized that was in Charleston. I think that we've also focused more so on our own backyard, right? Like I said, Oregon, it is a destination in and of itself. So even though I spend a lot of my time in other countries and different places marketing their areas, it's more focusing on what's in your own backyard as well. So if you're in, Idaho, what kinds of things are there that you can enjoy? So marketing really what you can enjoy and do safely right now. And like Beth said, it's very interesting because many suppliers are offering, the different experiences that you would normally do as a larger group, individually as a family, or, a smaller group. And it's been great to see that because the cost has been really enticing. But it's, again, getting people feeling comfortable to travel. I know one of the questions on the questions and answers said, do people want to go where masks are, because the survey says masks, 67% of people. And honestly, to kind of spin around in that, what I'm finding is my people want to travel where everyone is wearing masks, but they don't necessarily want to feel like they have to wear masks the whole time themselves. They want their trip and their travel to be as authentic as it would have been previously, but with the extra boundaries of safety. And so right now, we're not sure where that exists. So it's nice to see, the different things that are happening to give families the ability to do activities without the large group that possibly could spread things.
Absolutely. So, Mickey, I want to be sensitive of your time. It is 1:45 Eastern, so I'd
love to participate in another question. We have time
all
for
right,
one more.
okay. So the second part of Eva's question was best practices for newsletters. Everyone wants to get you information. And you also can't be inundated with 1,000 newsletters and expect to read all of them. So Even though we would love that you did. I'm an ex-CMO. I would love that you read 1,000 newsletters. But what is the best practice there? What types of information are you looking for in the newsletter? That you can share with your clients. What's the best thing for them to do? Go ahead, Mickey. I'm going to put you on a spot. You're going to have to leave soon.
Yes. So with me not actually being an agent, I get a lot of different newsletters from all the different partners that we work with, and we have to kind of discern what is shared with the network versus what we're hoping that they already received by being part of a specific list. I think
I love that thing though. So, I mean, you aren't an agent, but you disseminate that information out to 1,300 independent agencies there. So what are your top line items? What are the things that you're picking?
Yeah, I think any sort of major policy changes, any major sort of, whether it's deployment or itineraries, I think for us, we see so many changes to the promotion side of things that it starts to become convoluted for the network. If you have 72-hour flash sales or promotions that ran, and you get the newsletter on a Monday, it starts on a Sunday and then ends the following day, at that point, it's kind of hard to stay on top of it, at least in my opinion, if you're on the agent side of things, because you have other things going on from a booking standpoint, servicing, et cetera. So it's hard when you start kind of complicating things with an influx of promotional items, or at least hopefully the promotions are long enough to where, they don't expire the day after that you receive the first newsletter.
Right. Good point. Beth, what makes you read a newsletter? What makes you, what's the catchphrase there that makes you open it? Is it a destination you're working on, or is there something that's more intriguing there for you?
Well, I don't want to, it's almost easier for me to say what doesn't make me open it. You know what I mean?
I'll take that. Yeah.
Because it's just the way our minds work. Like Mickey said, flash sale, limited availability, which you see those now, and it's like, I don't think that's really true, or 72 hours. With the sales being a consultative process, 72 hours is probably not going to be enough for my clients right now, especially when they're at their cabins or with their families. So I tend to overlook those. I've even been starting to pass by the keep dreaming. That's sort of getting old in my mind. And I know we have to keep dreaming, but that's every email for a while was, we know you can't travel now, but we will be. And now really what I'm paying attention to is the updates of, what's going on in the travel community, kind of the fun stories. I've been sending out, I have a newsletter I do every 2 weeks, and I do a travel tale, and it's some silly thing that I've done, like trying to track down a shaman when I was in a little Ecuador village. And, that people are kind of liking that stuff. I'm getting a good response to that. I'm not getting as much of a response to, when you are able to travel, or let's book travel. I don't think people are quite ready to book yet. At least my clients aren't, but they're still interested in hearing stories.
And thank you for that. And I think stories and there's a place for inspiration, but we've had a lot of conversations recently on when's the right time to sell, when's the right time to move away from just a, hey, you're going to travel at some point, and to be actionable. So it's interesting that in this particular market, you're seeing the same thing on the consumer level, which I think makes everyone on the call kind of sit up and say, okay, we need to change tactics a little bit, and add in maybe that actionable item there. Anneke, when you're talking newsletters, what's making you open them or not open them?
There's a lot, right? There's a lot, like Beth said, and a lot of it is keep dreaming, keep hoping, and that is difficult to look at daily. I find that I do open, obviously, legal issues, changing of boundaries and borders and things like that. Because I specialize so significantly in the Hawaiian Islands, anything that comes from the islands, I'm reading. Because the island of Molokai could be very different than what Maui is allowing, even though they're the same county. So it's important to know those things. And I would say really like tourism ports, I'm really appreciating the fact that unusual destinations that don't usually market are reaching out and saying, hey, did you realize you have an educational program? Or let's talk about what my destination might offer. Knowing that I might have a little more time available than typical to educate and do things behind the scenes while I'm on hold with suppliers, doing other things, right? So I've found that, for example, Norway has done a great job of sending me some things that I had nothing, new ideas that I didn't realize or wasn't aware of. So I feel like really shining a light bulb on things that are new or unknown or unusual, like we said, speaking to that bespoke experience, those are the things that kind of perk me up and make me pay attention to. The same old, the 72-hour sale. I mean, I can look it up if I want to, right? But I want to be educated, I suppose, right now at this point. Really
That's a good point, Anneke. And you know what it just makes me think of is, really, I read things that I think will make me look good to my clients. I mean, if you want to be egocentric, how can you make me look good? Where's the wow factor? Hey, here's a great Grand Canyon trip. Do you know I can get you in an hour early, or we can do, you know what I mean? Make me shine and make me be a star, and I'll read your stuff because I need it and I need you, you know?
Sure. No, I think that's super important. So, throughout these last 6 months, we've seen virtual site inspections, virtual FAM tours, new education programs. Are those all things that you're interested in, that you would take time to do if there was the wow factor, if it was something that was new or different?
So I've attended a few, and mostly ones that are going to be, obviously an appeal to my clients. Many of them are happening daily, and I just can't attend them all.
Right.
I will say that the virtual FAMs just aren't the same, obviously, as a true FAM. Being on the property, smelling the air, seeing the clients that are around, there's really, truly nothing like being there to experience it, to sell it. I think that right now that is the biggest challenge that we face, is we can't be everywhere right now, right, to experience it. I will say, like last November, I spent 9 days in destination with one of my agents, and that was the most valuable, probably, learning and training experience we had all year. It just doesn't beat it. You can't beat that. So yeah, the virtual FAM's helpful to some extent, but also so many of them that they become blurry.
Right.
They're almost,
so you have to pick and choose. Yeah. I told you guys it would go fast. It's 1:53, so we have 7 minutes left, and I do want to be sensitive to your timing. I promised you an hour. So we generally wrap these up with a little softball question and then some final thoughts. So we all work in the travel industry. We've all been home for a long time and haven't traveled in a while. Where do you want to go when all of this is over? Where do you want to go, and what do you want to do? I'm going to start with you, Nikki.
Awesome. So it was interesting. At the point where this kind of became like from an epidemic to a pandemic, we were actually hosting an academy in Cancun. And so we had about 25 of our independent agencies there, and it was tough. Calls were happening. Everybody started to cancel pretty much at that point in time. But it was nice to be there with them and to be supportive. And I think that's what makes this industry so resilient and strong, is the support that we have. Because that was pretty much rock bottom for a lot of people. And then at that point, can we get home? Are we stuck here? Well, what do we do? So at least I got that sort of experience of things, right. And haven't really done much since. I don't know necessarily what I'm itching to do. There's a lot. What we have planned to do is actually go down to Disney World for my wife's birthday in December. And if cruising is still a thing in December, there's something that we have planned from a sailing standpoint. But either way, Disney World hopefully should and will happen. And
I love that. Well, it's an hour away from me, but now all I'm hearing are like the Super Bowl. So where are you going? I'm going to Disney World. So I'm going to pick on you for a little bit about that, but yeah. I love it because it's in my backyard. Yeah.
We're big Disney fans. That's not how I got my name.
That was going to be my next question. So yeah.
We're close enough to Disneyland. My wife went to school like 10 minutes from Disneyland, so she probably has like the record for how many days she's gone in a year. But yeah, that's where we're going.
I love it. All right, Beth, what about you? Where do you want to go?
Well, my 20-year-old son lives in Costa Rica. My kids are Costa Rican, and that's one of my areas of specialty. So I used to go down there like every 6 to 8 weeks, even just like for a long weekend. I haven't seen him since January. So the minute, their airport opens up August 1st, and they're announcing today at 1:30 what the rules are, but I'm guessing they're not going to include me for a while. So but whenever Costa Rica opens up, I will be on the plane to go see my son. Secondly, I just gotten certified for advanced diving March 4th, and I haven't been able to utilize that. So I would love to I'm thinking Bali to go do some diving.
Oh, that would be beautiful diving.
Yep. And then thirdly, I was supposed to go to Sri Lanka, and I just want to ride that train. And I don't know, I've always been intrigued by Sri Lanka. So I can get.
Well, you can knock off 2 of those things in Costa Rica. You can dive in Costa Rica, you can see your son. So at least 2 of those are knocked off there. And I think those of us that have been able to quarantine with our family, our hearts go out to you. So I'm sorry that you haven't seen your son in so long.
Yeah, it's sad, but he's happy. He works for Amazon, and they've got him working at home, and
that's great.
He's got no.
Anneke, where are you going? Back to Hawaii, or do you have someplace else in mind?
Right, it's hard. So I've given up New Zealand and Alaska. We did have reservations in Hawaii for this November, but my daughter has had 4 open heart surgeries. So I think we're going to sit it out this fall. But this month was my 20th anniversary. I got married when I was 5, clearly.
Clearly.
Clearly, right?
And had a daughter at 6, so
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So my husband and I really had our hearts set on a Paul Gauguin sailing. So I'd really like to make that up to him and head out to Bora Bora with him. That's really what we had in mind. So we'll see, hopefully soon.
Well, all wonderful aspirations. I hope they all come true for you guys. In our last couple of minutes, what are some final thoughts? Any words of wisdom for everyone on that's tuning in? Whether you think people are going to travel this fall or into next year, or what they can be focused on to really help push this forward. Beth, what do you think?
Well, it's funny. I was invited to go stay at a newer luxury resort in the Riviera Maya, and I'm supposed to go August 3rd. I have to tell them tomorrow, and I go back and forth. I did have COVID personally in March, really, really bad. That's a whole other webinar, so it exists. So I may go. I'm not sure, but I know the risks involved. So that may be something. Otherwise, it's just kind of a day-to-day thing. We're all in this industry, I think, not because it's like the one that pays the easiest or has the shortest hours, but I think we've all found calling and a passion, and that always comes with a cost, right? And I think by looking at what the cost is, for example, my cost was overlooking my family and, not remembering my kids' names because, I was always somewhere and, my clients came first. And, now I've had a chance to come back and kind of recenter myself and settle and think about how I want to be going forward. So that would be just kind of my 2 cents. We've got an opportunity here to, take care of ourselves better. I think we're all successful because we take care of our clients really well. Well, it's time for.
Great. I love that. And Beth, you don't know it because yesterday we do a marketing webinar on Wednesdays and a trade webinar on Thursdays. But one of the topics yesterday was, we're kind of all starting at 0 and we get to decide who we want to be when we grow up. Right? Yeah. So we're all taking a step back and reevaluating, and that plays right into the conversation yesterday. So thank you for that. Anneke, words of wisdom, last minute thoughts.
So we are growing. I mean, right now is a perfect time to add agents. So I've had some people reach out, which is ironic because if you think you want to be a travel professional in this day and age right now, hey, by all means, join the team, right? But no, really, honestly, it's going to get better. It's just a matter of time. And I think that those that have been in the industry know that. We know that this is a storm and it's a big one, but we're going to weather it. But like Beth said, I've taken the opportunity to be home with my family. This next year, we're looking at homeschooling. So my life has changed completely overnight. but in a way it's been really wonderful because I've come back to where we all started, I guess, really. And I get to decide what I want to do with it, right, and how intentional I want to be. So I think that there is the blessing in that. But it really, yeah, it's just about, I guess, having resilience and being optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely. Mickey, any last minute words of wisdom there?
Yeah, Beth, I'm glad you're doing okay. That's scary stuff. My wife, we found out she had thyroid cancer kind of right when COVID happened too. So that was weird and interesting. But, you know, again, resiliency, I think is huge. I know it's hard to constantly try to promote positivity, but ultimately we will get through this. There are some, you know, things that have happened in the recent weeks where we're taking steps backwards. And I know that we'll continue to find optimism where we can. Things will look different for a while from an experience standpoint, but travel is not going away. From our perspective with the marketing side of things, people are still interested. It's just a different dynamic. So that's encouraging to see. Things will start sailing or traveling and resembling some sort of whatever new normalcy things are going to look like. So
I couldn't agree more. And as we mentioned before, travel professionals are going to be more important than ever as we move forward and to help us grow and move past everything that's happened in the past 6 months. So thank you very much, Mickey and Anneke and Beth, for taking the time to share your thoughts with us, share some wisdom with us. It's very important to everyone so they can form their own ideas and policies moving forward. So information is power, and we appreciate you sharing some of that with us today. Everyone on the call, thank you for continuing to tune in with us week after week. We've come full circle. We've closed the loop, and now we're going to start again. So next week, we're going to be talking to international tour operators, and with some flights opening up, seeing if that's going to open up for them and what their plans are. So please come back next week and join us. And thank you very much for continuing to tune in. Beth, Anneke, Mickey, thank you, and have a great weekend, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.